Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation at LIVESTREAM. I now locate worship associate this morning. I welcome you to the Soul of Religion. 5 tenets of which are revelation is continuous. Relations must rest on free consent, not hierarchical authority. We have a moral obligation to build a just and loving communities. We cannot be good without good institutions. And transformation is possible. We are happy you are here, no matter who you are, what you believe, where you are from, or how you came to us. I don't think there are any first-time visitors here, but if there are any on the Zoom, welcome. And those who have been here before, welcome back. We're so glad to see you. Later in the service, we'll share the joys and sorrows of our individual lives. We'll be passing the microphone around. It is my pleasure to welcome our worship leader today, CUUC member, Mohammed Loutfy. Mohammed is a Lebanese immigrant from a Muslim family. And he first arrived in the U.S. about years ago. At age 7, he became blind from a genetic issue. A lawyer by training, Mohammed has been a well-established global advocate promoting the rights of persons with disabilities to inclusion, and works with an array of national, regional, and international organizations like the United Nations and the World Bank. In addition to experiencing disability, Mohammed grew up in a country undergoing continuous political turmoil from historical and deeply rooted confessional divisions. Witnessing the outcomes of such tragic context in this country, Mohammed recognizes the crucial need for principles of social inclusion and pluralism among his people. He holds a deep adherence to the perspective of Unitarian Universalism, which puts him in an unusual relationship with his Islamic faith, as well as with other mainstream faith traditions. Mohammed began attending CUUC in 2016, along with his partner, Nicole Turgeon, and they became members in 2019. He enjoys listening to classical music of all cultures, playing chess, reading books, and participating in discussions about religion, philosophy, history, and world politics. He also enjoys watching documentaries and listening to podcasts along with his partner. With his taste rooted in Middle Eastern cuisine, Mohammed enjoys cooking and trying new restaurants with his partner and friends. He and Nicole live in Fort Chester with 2 cats. Mohammed is going to lead us in the words of Sophia Lyon Paz, which is number 657 in the Gray Hymnal. What's that? Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged.
Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way to higher.
Some beliefs are like shadows clouding children's days with fear of unknown calamities.
Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with world happiness.
Some beliefs are like divisive, separating the saved from the unsaved, friends from enemies.
Other beliefs are bonds of broken unity, with experiences
Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction.
Other beliefs are like gateways opening wide vistas of exploration.
Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness.
Other beliefs nurture self-confidence and personal growth.
Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world.
Other beliefs are vital, like what's happening, and growth.
Please join me in reading the challenge sliding words in the order of service. Invite those online to light a candle or chalice at home and read along from the order of service linked to our website. Blessed is the match consumed in kindling flame. Blessed is the flame that burns in the heart's secret places. Blessed is the heart which strength to stop its beating for honor's sake. Blessed is the match consumed in kindling flame. We invite you to stand and bow your spirit for hymn number 347, Gather the Spirit of the Great Hymn.
Gather the spirit of the separate parts within the one flame. The mystery of this song, dancing this morning, of heroes name. Gather peace, gather thanks, celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of our seeds for the soul are laid in store. Nurtured in love and conscience refined. Spirit united once more. Peace, gathering thanks, gathering sin, gathering us once again. Gather the spirit rolling in love. That is led by the sun. Yes. Resounding as one. Peace, thanks, simply now and then, gathering hope, once again.
At this time, we open our hearts to all people of the world who are suffering because of war, of hunger, or injustice or natural disaster. We open our hearts to those among us here who have joys to celebrate.
Or whose hearts are heavy.
Bear with me to open the document. Apologies. Let's pray. Spirit of life, guide us to the real meaning of life. Guide us to understanding the true meaning of things that surround us. Guide us to a world that is free of harm, free of prejudice, free of discrimination. Spirit of truth, guide us to know the truth, because you are the way, you are the Lord of light, you are the way, you are the true, and you are the real life. Let's observe a moment of silence. Blessed be. Amen.
World community of peace, liberty, and justice for all begins in our hearts, in our homes, in this our congregation, as a place of peacemaking, fairness, and free religion. It is September, and this month we shall have a non-pledge collection with the Interfaith Council of New Americans Westchester, or ICNA, a coalition of CUUC and other local congregations. that welcomes and resettles people who have been forced to flee their home countries. To date, ICNA has provided support to 8 families with 35 people, including 18 children. We are grateful to support their good works. Thank you for your kindness, your compassion, and your commitment to making CUUC and the world a better place. Your support truly makes a difference.
Well, good morning. Sorry earlier about the technical issue. When I signed up to be a sermon leader this summer and thought about the topic I want to talk about, I asked myself, what did I do to myself? Because I wanted to talk to you about something that has been on my mind for many years, which is, why are we experiencing what we are experiencing in this world? It's a big existential question. And I tried to think about it from different angles, whether it's related to macro world affairs or very individual experiences that have been reflected through different forms of crises or prejudice or discrimination, and so on and so forth. And that's what motivated me to, keep engaging with religion, politics, whether through my work or through my academic years. And I wanted to share with you my conclusions that I hope you will challenge me about, and maybe I will change them later. We experience things on two levels. On a more broader spectrum related to macro world affairs, and we see that through wars, through conflicts, through political tensions between countries and between people. And also we experience that from an individual level through the different life experiences we go through every day, and that project or that influence our life forever. And I came to the conclusion that it's all about how we interpret our belief systems. We are surrounded by ideas and ideologies, whether it comes from religions or political ideologies, and we see that how lots of world affairs are committed in the name of religion or political ideologies. In the midst of all this, and with all of the frustrations we have, that we experience every day, we live every day, we ask ourselves, Or like we face this big question, how am I going to nurture my spiritual life? How am I going to continue to trust all these thoughts, ideologies, ideas, religions, whether they are, structured, liberal, conservative, more moderate, and so on and so forth. So how do we do that? Can we still trust spiritual or spirituality? Can we still trust whatever power we believe in that is beyond this world? And we always blame it on this kind of power. Why God does not interfere? Why doesn't God do something to stop all these calamities, all these catastrophes that we witness in this world? And I don't have an answer for why God cannot intervene, but I can think of things that have caused these problems in a way or another. And I want to give you two examples. One example I want to talk about is what as a person coming from the Middle East, and with the war that's happening now, we really hope it will stop soon. Which has been on the scene of macro world affairs for decades, and if not for generations, for centuries. And it's all about one story that you may all be aware of, which is Abraham and the sacrificial lamb. Here is a guy who sees a dream that he is sacrificing his son. And I will come to this very point in a minute. And he wakes up because he's a strong believer. He's a very righteous, pious person. He takes his son, he goes somewhere, he prepares to sacrifice his son, but all of a sudden, somehow, he sees a lamb, and he takes the lamb, and he sacrifices the lamb instead. Well, two people in the world, through history, interpreted this in a way that it would serve their own identity, to ensure that they have the privilege of something. I don't want to get into that in more details, but I want to say that because of such a dream that has been narrated in some book, in the three actually religions, Abrahamic religions, people decided that I am more privileged than the other because it's all about the son. Whether Isaac or Ishmael, people descended from each one of them, and each one of them who claims that this is the son that was mentioned in the dream, that I am more privileged than the other. Because God sent Abraham a lamb as a reward for this person's surrender or submission to God's will, according to the Scripture. And generations after generations, we see this conflict happening because each one of them claims that they deserve that lamb. Poor lamb. I like lamb, but poor lamb. Today, at the end of the day, all who suffered are this lamb and the people who believed in that dream. The second example I want to give is, as a person with disability, I grew up, experiencing different kinds of discrimination and exclusion, and I always ask myself, why do we persons with disabilities go through this experience? And of course, this is not only applied on persons with disabilities. We see that, as usual, about women, LGBTQ community, and many other kind of as they call the United Nations, marginalized groups. But why? Again, the interpretation of different institutionalized religious traditions can be a problem, because my understanding is that these interpretations have influenced mindsets of people for generations, and it became very rooted in their souls to the extent that everything that they react to can be related to that kind of interpretation, whether we know it or not. But whether we consider a person with disability very smart, very talented, supernaturally talented, and we would be surprised, oh, he looks great, he's smart, as if like he's supposed to be not so. Or if he fails to do something, oh, poor him, God bless his soul, he needs help. Well, every one of us needs help. Everyone is expected to be smart, or in a way or another, in their way, without any judgment. But what caused this is basically the different interpretations of disability in the three main religions. And I'm always referring to these three religions, and forgive me, I'm not an expert about other religions, but these three religions, given where I grew up and I've been living all of my life, and I'm more familiar with these three faiths. According to the Hebrew Bible, Leviticus, even though the Bible blames whoever causes a blind man, and I'm just using the words of the text, to fall in a hole would be punished. But at the same time, a person with intellectual disability, back then they would be called mad people, or a person with leprosy is not allowed to be part of the community and participate in temple rituals. There's a kind of exclusion, severe exclusion. They should be condemned and kicked out of the community. This practice continued for centuries, even during the time of Martin Luther, the great reformer, and even during the Nazi Germany, persons with disabilities were to be condemned and killed, thrown in the rivers, left on mountaintops until they die. At the same time, we see different interpretation that disability is a form of darkness and ignorance. That's very clear in the New Testament. When Christ heals a blind person just because they recognize him as their savior, that's a form of enlightenment that causes a person to be healed from their disability. Whether this is true or not, I don't know, but for centuries, the church thought that the only way for a person with disability to be accepted by society is to raise with religious education. This is why lots of churches created these institutions where persons with disabilities were sent away from their families, isolated, getting excluded from their own environment, just in the name of education. And that caused persons with disabilities to disappear from society for many generations. With Islam, it's not better. Even though in the Quran, chapter 80, Muslims always give this as an example for how Islam has granted persons with disabilities education. Well, it's only for the blind. But in the same time, but I will tell you the story. There is this man who comes to the Prophet asking him to, that he wants to learn about the new religion. Prophet Muhammad, like, pushes him away, frown in his face. And here is God sends this chapter and sends this text blaming the Prophet Muhammad, like, how dare you frown in the face of a blind man just because he came to ask you to learn about the new religion while you are busy with other things. Now, Muslims took this as an evidence that Islam encourages the education of persons with disabilities, but Muslims forget that in the text itself, disability has been also associated with darkness, ignorance, disbelief, rejection of God, which cause a person to go to hell. So, with that, the concept of disability in society continued to be a reflection or a resemblance of something negative, and cause persons with disabilities to experience a lot of prejudice and discrimination, just because they are either pitiful or they are a resemblance of ignorance. They are then a less kind of people. Now, what do we do with this? Did modern world give a different interpretation? Well, even though we now see that human rights treaties recognize persons with disabilities and ensure their presence in society, but it's all in the name of labor force, meaning that we want to make sure that persons with disabilities are part of the labor force so they can serve the economy. And if we can think about this, about this very point, we notice that the game of power is always repeating itself, whether through religion or through our today's capitalistic society. Because all religions have been interpreted to serve some interest of some religious institution just to maintain its power and control over people. Now, what do we do about this? First of all, yes, we have to keep in mind that scriptures are nothing but literary texts that reflect a projection of certain spiritual ideas back then, nothing else. Interpretations of religions have to be taken with a grain of salt. And we have to remember that we are ourselves potential prophets. We have to awaken the talent of prophethood in ourselves as we believe as Unitarian Universalists. Prophethood continues in every generation, never stops. So we have the capacity to understand and develop our own perspective about different things in order for us to give an end for world conflicts. We need to develop our own new interpretations. Instead of thinking of a poor lamb that was sacrificed, we can think of Abraham to be that patient person who deserves to be rewarded just because he's righteous and patient. And every one of us has to experience or to show patience with life, tolerating calamities and experiences of discrimination. Because without patience, we cannot succeed. Perseverance is a form of patience that definitely shall lead us to success and prosperity. And we have to remember, according to what the Sufi saint Ibn Arabi, and this is a saying that even people refer to Prophet Muhammad, that says, The heart of a believer is the throne of God, meaning that you have to depend on your heart to give new understanding for life and for what's surrounding us. And again, we have to keep seeking the meaning of truth, because as Jesus says, know the truth and the truth will free you. Thank you.
Please rise in body and Holy Spirit and join me in singing hymn number 6. I must answer yes to life. Though in pain I read my way, still with hope I need each day. If they ask what I will, tell them yes to life. As long as they last, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my thought, always that roots and spark. If they ask what I did, now I say yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to life. Disappointment pierces me through, still I hope for you. If they ask what I did best, now I say yes to life.
Just remember that our job in this world is to find the truth and share it with others. Just remember that when we find the truth, we will experience peace. When we find our own, when we find our own conscience, we will experience peace. With peace, we will eliminate all forms of prejudice and discrimination. Continue to look for the truth, and the truth will make you free. Go in peace.
Please join me now in the chalice extinguishing words printed in the order of service. Invite those at soon to extinguish your home chalice with us. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, nor of the community, or the fire of men. These we carry in our hearts until we are together
Again. Thank you for being with us today.
We invite those of us here in Fellowship Hall to stay for refreshments and conversation after service. We ask adults with children in childcare to please pick them up first. After service, you may leave your chair in place and put your hymnals back on the card. And remember to put your name tag in the basket in the lobby when you leave today. A weekly e-communitarian newsletter offers many details of activities here at CUUC. So before you get swept up in the busyness of life, take a moment to discover the interesting offerings awaiting you in our community. Please join me in thanking those who have made today's service possible. Mohammed and Creighton, Kathy and Emily, and Anthony provided the tech. Thank you.
That's
It's good to be together today. As we enjoy our park and music, please spend a few minutes talking with someone you don't know and escort each other to refreshments. And may we all know the blessings.